The Bikeriders. That's right, folks. The new film from Jeff Nichols is here, depicting motorcycle culture, which is kind of interesting to see happen in 2024. I'm always fascinated by stuff like this, where something was so prominent and interesting in yesteryear, and today there is still the culture, but it's just shifted so much and feels different. It's kind of interesting. I like that. I look at a lot of pop culture, and I think a big part of that is just like the branding of a thing to become like a staple of existence. And I think motorcycle culture and bike riding and that whole like genre, that has been a huge part of popular culture since like the conception of popular culture started to exist. And I don't really think we have a movie in the modern era that truly like depicts that. Easy Rider might be like the most notable from like the 60s, and then we just didn't really depict it. So it's kind of exciting, Jeff Nichols, a fun filmmaker, Austin Butler, Joide Comer on the up and up, coming up to be some big talents, and Tom Hardy being the big supporting. It's kind of exciting. This is one of the films that was also delayed because of the actor and writer strikes that happened last year. And it's one of the more notable ones that got pushed back. I think it's kind of good it got pushed back because there was so much coming out last year in that time period that might have like affected this one to really grow. But I think in like this specific summer, like this coming out in June, it is really good counter programming to the big hits that we're seeing in the summer this year. It is really adult, and if you want to, take your kids to go see Inside Out 2, and maybe your cinema is also showing the Bikeriders, well, you and, your spouse can hop over there and let your kids enjoy the Pixar movie. So that's kind of fun. It's the Bikeriders. I don't know how I'm going to sell it to you. What if a bunch of cool people were on bikes and they formed a gang, and it's loosely based on true events? It's based on true events in like the loosest sense of the word, where it's like, yeah, there was this guy who interviewed and photographed and chronicalized the lives of this gang, and then, what if we just made stuff up from there? And I'm sure some of it's true, but there's so much of this that is just very old Hollywood compared to real life, and that's okay. I appreciate that. Sometimes it's just good to have like a real movie to watch, and that's what this feels like, a real movie. I hate saying that. I hate that I have to say that. Every movie that comes out should feel like a real movie, but the truth is this actually feels like a classic film from a different era that we don't normally see. It's got a different flow to it. It's got a like very melancholy ending about like what life is and what makes you happy and the sacrifices we make for that. And it's kind of a cool thing to appreciate and see. It's not something that's very common anymore, and there is a clear version of this movie that could be made that would depict all these things in a different way. And that's maybe what I appreciate the most about like the simplicity of this piece. It both presents this lifestyle as very toxic and very alluring, which is very important because as somebody who has no desire to join a gang, ride a motorcycle, or sit around in like just some field somewhere with my buddies drinking a beer and sitting by a fire talking about like what we could have done, none of that's appealing to me. This movie does a good job of making it look fun and attractive and something you'd want to be a part of, but also just letting you know that this is bad and these guys are very broken and delusional and have lost control of the situation very easily, which is perfect for the flow of the movie, because we start off seeing how fun and vibrant and cool and hot and hardcore these guys are. They're like cool and slicked. It's like a classic greaser type, just showing up, the coolest guys in the room, the toughest guys in the room, and as it progresses, you just start to realize there's things crumbling between the cracks here, which is kind of cool. In that sense, it kind of plays like a mafia movie. It kind of just plays like classic cinema of just like watching something that was so powerful be brought down by itself existing. Because it's also a film about like a time period and like a time capsule of what you could do in like a specific moment. And the movie itself makes it very clear it's like this could only happen at this point. This isn't something we're seeing today. It's not something we've seen before it. It exists in a specific moment because something could happen in there and people were able to do it. So this movie is kind of like a flashback movie about an interviewer played by Mike Fest, and guess what? He's been popping up a lot lately Glad to see him getting work, and he's interviewing our main character, who is Joide Comer. She is the main character. Now, I believe they sell it in the trailers that she's the main character, but they really want you to focus on Bulter and Hardy, and we'll get to them in a minute here. But Joide Comer, she is our main character. She is like a normal girl, you know? I'm just doing my thing. My friend asked me to come to this bar. It turns out it's like a biker bar. And I meet a bunch of cool guys there. And then I meet Austin Butler. And I'm like, oh, that's the hottest thing I've ever seen. And I fall in love with him. And I'm sucked into this world because it's alluring. And it's kind of dangerous. And that's cool. What a performance. Like, this is a hard performance to nail. Especially when this is not her natural accent. So to be able to convincingly portray this character in this level of weirdness with that accent, that's not easy, but she nails it. You completely see Comer getting lost in the role. And not for a minute do you think, oh, well, she's just putting it on. You're like, this woman is tough, but comfortable in her emotions, knows what she's doing, and knows when everything around her is losing control, and is just so charming. She is so delightful. She's doing something so strong with the accent choices. You just can't help but fall in love with her. And in a way, she becomes the appealing factor as well. Because I should point this out too, this is essentially a love triangle of a man caught between two lovers, Joide Comer and Tom Hardy. Who's he going to go to? Like the fun, freewheeling riders that he could like connect to on that level, or the person who's seeing his vulnerability and trying to take care of him. Where is he going to go? Comer portrays that perfectly. She is the standout in this film to me. A beautiful, transcendent performance where you're like, I knew you were good. I've always known you were good, Joide. But this is hard to nail, and the fact that you did is really impressive. And Austin Butler, he's just great. Like, we're seeing a movie star being made. I think he's going to get a lot of butts in the seats. I think he is slowly becoming like this generation's like alluring leading man for like a creepo factor, but not like a negative way, because he's hot, and he's hot in this. He is just a very like dramatic, serious, stiff type who you just kind of want to protect, but is going to protect you like a dog, and it's very alluring and cool. It makes for some very fun stuff. It is drastically different than his performance in Dune Part 2, so you're like, this guy having both these movies come out this year, you're seeing the birth of the modern-day Johnny Depp, in terms of an actor, not in terms of a person. And Tom Hardy, well, if you just say, can you do a weird little voice and just look like a freak for a minute, he can do that in his sleep. And he does that well here, just playing like a guy who loses control of everything he did, but is also the most intimidating motherfucker you've ever seen in your life. It's beautiful, and our supporting cast is kind of amazing. Boyd Holbrook, whenever he shows up, it's just delightful. You love to see it. Michael Shannon, so good at playing a supporting role, just coming in and saying something, and then he ducks. And then, man, it's just good to see Norman Reedus having the time of his life. He shows up for maybe 5 minutes. Clearly, it's just like, you want me to dress like what? Okay. And does it. And it's kind of amazing. But it's also about toxicity, how broken the world is, and how this lifestyle isn't sustainable or worth living sometimes, which is kind of a very interesting thing to play with. So, the Bikeriders, I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.